Wasn't recorded? Let's do it again.
All right.
All right.
Good.
Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you to our December meeting. Today is Friday, December 13th. The time is now 9:10. We want to get started with our meeting. We do apologize for taking a little time today. There definitely is some weather-related travel for us to get here, but we thank you very much for joining. Before we get started, as we do with every meeting, we want to invite those from the public who may want some time on our agenda. If you could raise your hand in the chat and or come off of mute, we would love to hear from you, and we will allocate some time during our agenda item number 3, public comment period. So if there's anyone from the public. All right, hearing none. I'll turn this over to Connor so he can go over some of the ground rules prior to us getting our meeting started. Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody. This is Connor Vanny with GHD. I'd like to wish a warm welcome to everybody joining us for today's meeting. It's nice to see everybody here in person and remotely today. As a reminder, this meeting will be recorded. And to start things off, I'd like to introduce a couple of housekeeping measures. So number one, to reduce the amount of background noise, we kindly ask you to stay muted until you're ready to speak. And at the time you're ready to speak, please state your name and affiliation for the record. At this time, I'll begin taking the roll call, starting with the board members. After I say your name, please say here or present. I'd like to start with Chairman McFoy.
Present.
William Sunderland.
Present.
Gerald Kelly.
Present.
And Ray Nosworthy.
Present.
Thank you, board. I'll now move on to the regular attendees, starting with Peter Merlot.
Present.
Jack McMahon.
Present. Did you hear me?
Yep. Thank you, Jack. Fawad Arab.
Present.
Charlie Martirana. Damon Sykes.
Present.
David Hill.
Present.
Doug Foltz.
Present.
Kelly Lee.
Present.
Bill Ferguson.
Present.
Lisa Fody.
Present.
Stephen Waldvogel.
Present.
Dustin Steiner.
Present.
Matthew Adam.
Present.
Damon Rand.
Present.
Christine Wingo.
Present.
And then I'm seeing 716-851-4777 number.
That's Jack.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you, Jack. And is there anybody else present either in the room or online that I haven't called?
Patrick Thornton.
Thank you, Patrick.
Michael Wolez.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We have everybody covered, so I'll pass it back to you, Chairman McFoy.
All right, Connor, thank you very much. Board, if you would, please review the agenda that was sent out prior to and is available up on your screen. Are there any additions or subtractions to the draft agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Peter Merlo, Secretary to the Board, Principal Engineer for the Division of Water. I'd like to add 4 items to the agenda today. And I would like to replace those for promise pay and call these 7A, B, C, and D for the purposes of today's meeting. Promise pay, we weren't able to work out. We're going to be able to address that later. We have time, so we're good with that. So that'll be at a later date. We don't need any action at this point there. So I'd like to add, the first one is propose a meeting schedule for 2025. 7B is going to be additional services for GHG observation oversight retainer. 7C is additional services for the hypochlorite disinfection conversion project. And 7D is time extension for the NOVA water cut contract as recommended by Wendell.
was that first one? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Meeting schedule.
The proposed initial meeting schedule.
To
And
2025.
yes, and that is basically, all the dates are the second Wednesday of the month as originally intended. So we'll discuss that, but we'll start there, and then any adjustments will be made accordingly to the member schedule going forward. As typical. Great.
All right, so, board, is there any other additions? So, all right, hearing none, as we have a very lengthy agenda, we'll make sure to move through this expeditiously. Board, is there a motion to approve the agenda as so amended?
Sunderland, so moved. Nosworthy, second.
The motion is properly seconded. Hearing no further questions, all in favor?
Sunderland, aye. Nosworthy, aye.
Kelly, aye.
All right, thank you. Item number 2, approval of the minutes from the meeting of November 20th, 2024. Board, if you would, please take this time to do another review of our draft minutes as they were sent out previously and are available on our screen. All right, is there a motion to approve the minutes from our November 20th, 2024 meeting?
Sunderland, so moved. Nosworthy, second.
The motion properly seconded. Hearing no further questions, all in favor?
Sunderland, aye. Nosworthy, aye. Kelly, aye.
Unanimous. All right, item number 3, public comment period. Board, at this time, we want to make sure to hear from those of the public. If you would like to speak, we offer up this portion of our meeting, every meeting. And so if there's anyone who would like to come off of mute and or raise your hand in the chat, we will provide such time. Okay, hearing none, we will now move into item number 4, staffing update. Mr. Merlo.
Thank you, Peter Merlo, Secretary to the Board, Principal Engineer for the Division of Water. Haven't got the latest and greatest. I do know we do have, I believe, a full complement of AFPOs now.
Yes, we do.
We're looking to get them trained. We're basically been in contact with Health Department. I know Eric has been leading that charge to see what trainings are going to be offered. It looks like there's 2 upcoming that should fit the schedule to get 2 trained. And getting those AFPOs trained will give them the ability to fill in the chair and help relieve some of the pressure on our filtration plant operators. I still think we have a ways to go with our pumping plant operators.
Yes.
I don't know what the latest is. Doug, I don't know if you have the latest and greatest there, if you're on.
Yes. Yeah, good morning, Board. Doug Foltz, Veolia Operations. Just the current numbers, we're currently at 87 of 127 target staffing. That's 68% of target staffing. Further, what Peter said, we are at 4 of 4 assistant filter plant operators. And that's a big deal. I just want to touch on that for a minute. If you recall, about a year ago, we were at a significant staffing deficit, 1 out of 4. That required Veolia to subcontract maintenance of our filter building turbidimeters out to Hach. We were able to bring that back in-house. So at the end of the current agreement, which I believe expires in the next couple of months, that work's going to be coming back in, and that's going to result of a savings to the board of approximately $50,000. So.
All right. Good stuff. Thank you. Anything else? Any questions on that on board? All right, that is definitely good news, but we know we still have a ways to go. Thank you, guys. I will now move on to item number 5, meeting locations. I'll handle that one for now. All right, so we as the board knows, we received a request from members of the Common Council, the resolution that was asking for us to hold our meetings at City Hall instead of here at Colonel Ward. And so what I've said as outgoing board chair, I would encourage the next board leadership to consider that item. we do understand that maybe there is some confusion on, the facilities here. And so we would like to invite folks down here. We also understand that we have not been in any violations of the open meetings law. And so with that, though, it may just be that people need to have an understanding of the best practices of water utilities, and making sure that they understand this is what we do and this is why we hold things here. Same thing on the sewer side, to make sure that everyone understands this is what we do. This is where the work happens. And this goes back to the appreciation and the value of all of the hard work that is done by the men and women here at Buffalo Water. And so, I will encourage the next board leadership again to have that conversation with our common council leadership, and then kind of move that forward. And so that's kind of all I wanted to say. I didn't know if anyone had any questions on that.
So we don't know where the next meeting is going to be?
Right now, we're looking for a suitable location that we could host in City Hall.
Okay.
And so there's.
Kevin, would you want to say at least until another location is confirmed, this is the default location? So if there's any advertisements going on next month, then we have a location. As far as we know, I think the communications is staying until we
Yeah,
make
I
it
think that's
official.
something
Wouldn't that be the case?
I think that's definitely something that needs to be worked out with the
Either way.
commissioner.
Gotcha.
Did the common council know there's free parking down there?
Jerry, I tried to encourage a site visit and I got silence, so.
So it's just something, again, I want to make sure that the board's aware that did come down. And I just think that there's maybe potentially a misunderstanding of what we actually do here and how open and accessible it is. In that, folks just shouldn't believe just one bias report. So with that, we'll move on, and we'll move on to item number 6, draft audited financials, and I'll turn that over to Ms. Ferguson.
Hi, Bill Ferguson, City Accountant. I will keep this brief because I know I talked too long about numbers, and we have, as Joe J said, we have a full meeting. If you don't mind, if I could make my screen live. If I could make my screen live.
Connor, can you do that?
Yep, I could do that. I'll stop sharing, and if you want to share it.
Sure. Okay.
Bill, while you're sharing, did you get the my signature?
Not. If it's up there, I
Not-
haven't seen it yet,
probably-
but
it's probably in
I'll
our
believe you on
inbox.
that.
Yeah, that's great. It's because it's available back at the hall.
Okay. Let me just. I'm just trying to get this thing shared. Here we go. Right now, and you should be seeing the face of the statements.
We do.
Okay. We'll scroll through here quickly. Let me see here. The draft statements, going through them, the index. The first part to talk about is the auditor's report. As you see highlighted, it is an unqualified opinion, which is the opinion that we want. Everything is presented fairly in accordance with GAAP. The next part of the report is the management discussions and analysis, and this is what I'll highlight. This gives you the brief snapshot of the condition and the operations for the fiscal year. That's just what I'm going to do. It's going to, let's go to the basic financial statements. This is the table of the condensed financial statements. This is the statement of net position, like a balance sheet in the for-profit world. You see there is some cash went up, investments went down, but both of those sort of net to a net increase in cash and investment. Some of that is just what's being invested short-term and what's liquid cash. The next thing to highlight will be the capital assets. You notice the capital assets went up almost $20 million. That's after depreciation. That is the continued investment that is being made into the water system. Going to the liabilities, AP went up by $8.4 million. Some of that is a function of cash going up by a little bit, and some of that is just timing. That's really nothing to worry about. And then this is the overall summary here is that the total assets increased by $23.5 million, increase in capital assets. Well, the deferred inflows and outflows, that's just all pension stuff. I'm not going to bore you with that. And then total liabilities increased by $7.2 million, which is a large increase in payables. The next table is a 23 versus 22 statements that we talked about last year's. We don't need to go through those today. This statement here is this table is the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position, like their income statement. Significant changes. Operating revenues went up by $3.8 million due to the rate increase. Looking at our expenses, by and large, they're all materially consistent from year to year. Services and supplies went up, but that's once again too, that's just as we're spending more money on the system. Other financing sources, we see at almost a $10.9 million increase in transfers in. That is the money that we received from the city for the ARPA money. And overall net position increased by $14.4 million in this fiscal year. This is just the summary that I just talked about here, highlighted in red. This is last year's statement of net position. Again, talking about the capital assets of where we're going here. We can see the increase in construction in progress and buildings and improvements, and most importantly, the increase in $17.2 million increase in infrastructure. It talks about the debt financing. There's $142 million of debt outstanding. That is, it reports a liability as due to the water authority, and the water board only reports the amount actually used for projects and the acquisition of capital assets, since the unspent proceeds are maintained by the water authority. Payments to the debt service costs are transferred from the water board to the appropriate entity. As the debt is paid, outstanding liabilities to the other funds are reduced. It's sort of a weird way of showing it, but that's the way it is, just the relationship between the water board and the water authority. And then as you go on, we see the basic statements that we just talked about, just more broken out in detail. Once again, too, one thing I'd like to just point out too, receivables. We have our receivables are consistent from year to year, about $5.5, $6 million. But note is also net of allowance for doubtful accounts of $31 million. That goes back to something we've been talking about for a while on the water side and from the city side, is we're one of the few municipalities in the state that does not attach delinquent water fees to the tax records. So if there's a tax lien on the property, we do not include delinquent water charges when properties change hands. I would suggest that's something for the board and the city to continue to look at. I know the auditors have also included that over the years in their management letter comments for the city as to why we don't attach the liens on delinquent water to the property. This is the rest of just more of the balance sheet broken out, as we talked about that previously. And this is the change in, this is the operating statement, just pretty much the same as we just talked about as well. Here we have the statement of cash flows, which is takes them from an accrual basis to a cash basis. We see $27 million were provided by operating activity, which is receipts from customers, transfers to and from the water authority and the division of water for the payroll, payment to employees and payment to suppliers. So $27 million of cash from operating. $8.6 million was used for non-capital financing, which is the transfers to the city's general fund and offset by the transfers in. $33 million of cash spent for capital and interest. And then investing ones, we have about $3 million of investment income. So overall, cash increased by, cash and cash equivalents increased by about $3.2 million for the year. The rest is just the footnotes. They're all standard footnotes. I don't think you want me to go through those. They're all the same from year to year, but if anybody wants me to, I will.
Question.
Yes.
On the payables, you said they went up. Are we behind
No, some of that is just is sometimes how year end with the check runs. Whether or not what goes out the door at based on June 30th. So if we did a check run on June 30th, we paid the $3 million on June 30th, we would show lower cash and lower payables. If that payment was made on July 1st, we would have higher cash and higher payables.
So it's a timing thing.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's not really a cause for concern there.
Okay.
Thanks, Bill.
Yep.
Ray? No? Anything else? All right, thank you very much. And so it's now that the board must move and have action so that this can get posted up on our PAIR system and the state controller's office. So is there a motion to approve the financials as so presented so that we can move forward?
Nosworthy, so moved.
Sunderland, second.
The motion and properly seconded. Hearing no further questions. All in favor?
Nosworthy, aye.
Sunderland, aye.
Kelly, aye.
Unanimous. Thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you. And thank you, OJ.
All right. We'll now move on into item number 7A, which will be 2025 annual meeting schedule. Mr. Merlo?
Yes, Peter Merlo, Secretary to the Board Principal Engineer for the Division of Water. Attached is the proposed meeting schedule, which sets the dates for our typical water board meeting, which is the second Wednesday of every month. We can set this today with an approval, and then going forward, any updates will be by the member as we typically will adjust. So this is just a good place to start for the year as an approved item.
Second Wednesday.
Yeah.
of the month. Let's see.
March is usually your away time.
February is good, January is good. Yeah, March is good. Let me see April real quick. April's no good.
All right, can we look at the following weekend for April? How does that look?
It's good.
Okay.
April 16th is good.
All right, so we'll amend that to include April 16th instead of April 9th. And then if there are other dates, we'll get to that, but at least we're in a good place for the next quarter, next third of the year for next year. And we have this fully approved for the annual. And so that's a great thing for 2025. So is there a motion to approve the resolution for water board meeting minutes or meetings for 2025, given the change?
Wait, I
from April?
apologize. Wait a minute. March 12th is no good.
Okay. That was what you said.
Oh, shoot.
It's all right. How about the 19th?
No, it's gotta be the 26th, I'm afraid.
All right, so we're doing the 26th and the 16th. That still works. All right, so start again. So is there a motion to approve the resolution for annual meetings for 2025? Given the two amendments, it'll go from March 12th to March 26th and April 9th to April 16th, with all the rest of them remaining the same.
Sunderland, so moved.
Nosworthy, second.
The motion is properly seconded. Hearing no further questions. All in favor?
Sunderland, aye.
Nosworthy, aye.
Kelly, aye.
Unanimous. All right, we'll now move into item 7B, which will be a change in the retainer for our engineer, GHD. Mr. Merlo?
Yes, Peter Merlo, Secretary to the Board Principal Engineer for the Division of Water. This in addition of $550,000 for GHG's contract, really to take them to the end of the year for the services. And they're numerous in terms of what they're doing. So Stephen, if you want to give a brief explanation of what that encompasses, that would be great.
Yes, so in the proposal, it's quite lengthy. We've listed a number of activities that are ongoing. I also have, for your information, if you'd like, I have a breakout of year to date. Just so you can kind of see the split there. And then I have further descriptions as needed. Yeah, so there's, as you know, there's quite a lot of services that are provided. They range over a broad number of things. And we provide some administrative support. We provide a lot of technical support. We've also worked closely with your financial and legal consultant. And I will point out that we have some specialty vendors as well that we are supporting through our contract for services provided to the board. So I can go into much greater detail, but I'll leave it at that.
One of the things I just have a question on going forward will this be sufficient enough? We know we're going and doing a bond offer next year. We're anticipating that. And, you know, I know Lisa had talked about it may go in for the following year, but the work has to take place next spring. So is this sufficiently going to cover that?
I think sometimes that work's actually attributed to the cost of the bond sale, so that will be another
Yeah,
question.
that's outside of
Thank
this
you very much.
typically, yeah.
All
No,
right,
great question.
right, that's right. You're right. We do.
What do you
Get that up
authorize
in there.
right now for?
600, so we have another 100. So this is projected to kind of exhaust probably January-ish, you know, somewhere in January, and so
So you're asking for an extra 550,000 to
Yeah.
get through?
through the end of June. I hesitate to say this, but I'm optimistic that would not all be spent. I think that's a good estimate. It's a time and not
It's
to
a
exceed.
per diem.
Per diem, yeah, so, and so the board will have opportunity to review. So one of the things that's coming to an end is our community partnerships with our two partners. I've included a budget in here so that we can extend those two for 6 more months. With our two partners, that, you know, so there are things like that that we've accounted for. We will probably see a reduction in the PR budget because there were some extra videos that were done this year, you know, and things of that nature, which I don't imagine we would do in the next 6 months. So the PR will come down a bit. So yeah, I'm reasonably confident that the 550 will get us to the end of the year, and then there'll be a new board that might consider how they want to handle these things moving forward.
Any further questions for it? All right, is there a motion to approve an increase to our engineering contract with GHD in the amount of 550,000?
Osworthy, so moved. Sunderland, second.
The motion is properly seconded. Hearing no further questions, all in favor?
Nosworthy, aye.
Sunderland, aye.
Kelly, aye.
Unanimous. All right, we will now move on into item number 7C, sodium hypo. Mr. Merlo.
Yes, we are finalizing. I met with GHD and their team in terms of finalizing that procurement or that bid, which will be coming out in the next probably month and a half. We're going to be meeting with operators. The workshops are coming. We're having 2 workshops with our operators to sit down, spend 2 hours with them, go over the design, make sure they're on board. Because again, this is going from liquid gaseous chlorine disinfection to using bleach, liquid chlorine for the same thing. So operational, it's a big shift. We want to make sure operators on board. So those are coming. We're going to be bidding that. And this will go with as part of the many projects as part of the bond sale coming up in the spring, depending on the timing, et cetera. This, the Ruse, Mass Ave, all those distribution projects that we have in design. So the timing is working out. There were some final changes that we're doing to optimize and pick a good spot to where we're going to stop one design, because we're only designing, say 70 or bidding 75% of it. The portion that goes out to the intake, we're going to build at a later date because we have to add a softening system for that. So we're going to build the system first, be able to disinfect at the head of the plant, be able to disinfect on top of our filters. And then eventually, when that is gold, we will switch, decommission the gaseous chlorine, knowing the hypo works at the 2 primary locations. And then at that point, because the softening system is going where the hypo is now. So,
Peter, sorry, quick question.
yes, sir.
So in all of these design phases here, the Department of Health has to bless each one of these? Just like
Yes,
we did
they-
with fluoride, it's just they've got to.
Yeah, they, as a design team, they are in contact with DOH and submitting plans as recommended. They will ultimately have to submit, I believe you get a completed work form. They have to bless it going in and before we start it off. They are heavily involved because this is a major process.
So right now you're talking about at some point, the intake will be chlorinated. at the head of the plant, and then another spot that's gonna be 3 spots, okay.
3 locations.
Yeah.
And that's where we currently disinfect.
There's certainly, you currently disinfect in the same spots,
Yeah.
so you're not changing those, right? You're just changing the method.
Yeah, we're building the systems in parallel, so we can just switch over at each location. We want to first be able to switch at one location, knowing it works, knowing there's no hiccups, knowing, hey, we didn't think about this. So we still have other locations of the gaseous chlorine working until we fully know the hypo is not only built, but accepted and operated and working as planned. It's critical that that happens. We can't have a point where we have a hypo glitch in our hypo system and how we disinfect it. So this will allow us a proper transition between the two.
Is one more cost effective, safety wise, we know it is, one more cost effective than the other?
Yeah, I believe gaseous is the most cost effective treatment.
Gaseous is,
Yeah.
so it's the most.
It's the easiest to use. It's the cheapest. However, it's the most hazardous and sometimes the toughest. to
Don't get him going with
No,
this.
no, I just,
Look at his sad face. You see this?
No, I'm not sad. I'm on board.
What is that? And finding vendors.
Right,
It's
no,
becoming
it's
more
just-
and more
you have a
difficult.
chlorine gas leak, you got a big.
So this is a major safety piece that, Peter really has been promulgating and making happen. And so this is really going to be good. We do need to make sure we document it all. I know we've been working with the health department, but we got to push that information out. We know the importance. Other people see other things. We know how critical this is to delivering clean, safe water for the city.
It may be 2 years before we're actually fully using this system. By the time it's built and properly operated and understood and accepted, we're going to go very cautiously on this.
Is this something that needs to be shared with, as we're going along?
Yep. Yes, and it needs to go make sure it's in our documents and everything else.
Just so that people understand that transparency.
Even more so, right? Because we've learned lessons like, hey, we need a bullhorn for this to let
It's
everyone know.
just not enough to have it in a water quality report.
It's technically enough. We need to push that out a little bit more. All right. And so maybe this is something that we talked about on the side as part of the contract itself, for pushing out that information. Maybe it's also something that goes in some of our documentation that we push out to everybody.
Could be in a bill.
Yep, Bill Stuffer. Okay, so you are looking from the
47,000 for
47,
additional services. I believe that's what it is.
$47,000 for additional services as
That
it
would
relates
help
to our
us, but it can't be
sodium
in line here.
hypo. Is there a
Thank you.
motion to approve?
Sunderland, so moved. Nosworthy, second.
The motion properly seconded. Hearing no further questions. All in favor?
Sunderland, aye.
Nosworthy, aye. Kelly, aye.
Unanimous. All right, we'll now move on to citywide street cuts and our construction for Nova.
Okay, is that 7C?
7D.
D, this will be 7D.
7D. So it's just a time extension to allow NOAA to continue that work. At this point, we're not looking for an extension for our resident inspection. At this point, we believe we're good. This just allow them to complete the contract. We'll be bidding a new contract as part of the next bond sale for water cut rehabilitation, probably another $1.5 million that we're looking for next season. This should get us at this date until the other one can pick up. We just always want to have the ability to replace our cuts on the capital. We've been doing a great job, board, us keeping up. David, Mike, on average, how many breaks a year,
300.
right? So 300 cuts a year. Every year, we have to repair the street 300 times. So we've been on top of that. We've actually had a backlog. We've worked with DPW, so board, you've been dedicating funds, so we're not even a season behind now.
Great. All right, so is there a motion to approve a no-cost time extension to August 15th, 2025 for work being done by Nova for our citywide street cut restoration program?
Sunderland, so moved.
Nosworthy, second.
The motion is properly seconded. Hearing no further questions, all in favor?
Sunderland, aye.
Nosworthy, aye.
Kelly, aye. Unanimous. Thank you very much, board. We will now move on to item number 8, flood mitigation project. We have a time extension for construction.
Time extension, Pete Merlo, Secretary to the Board, Principal Engineers. This is for Pinto Construction. It's the last change order that we're looking to do, and actually, we've asked them to do this work. We believe this work falls under the limit of the scope of the contract. It's about flood mitigation, getting water out. Whatever outfalls has a problem, we need to make that adjustment sooner than later. We have a price, we have money in the budget. We also have room in the terms of the percent contract at this point where we are. So it makes sense to get it done with this. There's other work that we were thinking about doing, like the repair of the driveway. We're gonna put that off to a separate bid project. We had to cut it here. We felt this was very applicable to use the change order route for this particular piece of work.
All right, this deals with, again, stormwater outfall, penetration into sheet piling and
Yeah, this is basically going through that sheet piling and providing a new 24-inch opening so we can drain into the canal. It's a permitted outfall.
Yep.
When they did the sheet pile, they filled it with, got filled with concrete by accident. Unfortunately, we were on our own. And this is a project to remedy that,
all right.
the final piece.
And this has been reviewed by your engineer, GHD. I see they're recommending a change order in of $204,979.95 and a contract extension through April 30th of 2025. And
I got it.
is that right?
Yep.
Okay. It's been recommended by our principal engineer as well as our hired consultant, GHD. Is there a motion to approve?
Nosworthy, so moved.
Sunderland, second.
The motion and properly seconded. Hearing no further questions. All in favor?
Nosworthy, aye.
Sunderland, aye. Kelly, aye.
Unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, we'll now move on to the next item, which is a proposal for flood protection improvements for GHD. Mr. Merlo.
At the same time, we're asking for an increase to make sure this work can be properly inspected. It will only be utilized if needed between the project coordination. We feel there may be a gap there. So we're asking for an approval. We may have not asked for it at this time, but given the fact that we may not, we'd like to at least get the approval and then I can utilize it as necessary. Because this is basically per diem, per hour of inspection out here with multiple contracts. The same person is doing it, Dustin. However, we may have at times bring in an additional inspector because if there's two pieces of work going on. So this allows that time on a per diem budget to get through that until the end of the fiscal probably.
Excellent. Is there a motion to approve a not to exceed payment of $45,000 for resident inspection by GHD for the outfall previously spoken about?
Sunderland, so moved.
Nosworthy, second.
Is the motion properly seconded? Hearing no further questions. All in favor?
Sunderland, aye.
Nosworthy, aye.
Kelly, aye.
Unanimous. We'll now move on to item number 10, which is a budget amendment. Mr. Merlo.
Yes, attached here is really just movements of money on existing accounts on both the O&M side and on the bond account side that is allow us to pay for and utilize existing funds without requiring a transfer from reserves. So really, this is just pulling money from unspent money. We have some road repair money. We have some advertising money that was paid for separately that is able to be used at this point. We also have some of our structural improvements accounts that right now we can able to use to fund our engineering and technical, which is also funding the CPI increase for Veolia that we're finalizing. I know Stevens is waiting, evaluating that. We're waiting for a letter to confirm that so we can process that. So this, I got Veolia CPI, got additional money for GHG as approved today, plus the additional construction dollars for both. So that's what these basically are just, and that was part of my task this week is kind of get these lined up for today's meeting.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Because we can't get them approved next month or the month after as we wait.
Thank you very much. So there's a resolution for several budget amendments and reallocations and transfers from monies that we have available to other areas. Is there a motion to approve the budget amendments as so proposed?
Nosworthy, so moved.
Sunderland, second.
The motion is properly seconded. Hearing no further questions. All in favor?
Nosworthy, aye.
Sunderland, aye. Kelly, aye.
Unanimous. We'll now move on to item number 11, lockbox fees.
Yes, Peter Merlo, Secretary to the Board, Principal Engineer for the Division of Water. We're asking to be able to pay some lockbox fees that got kind of caught up. We work very efficiently, Bill, with your office in terms of paying these or whoever's at the City Hall, but these got missed. So basically, it's just an approval from the board. We'll use our claim account, get these paid and get these cleaned up. This is something we've done before when things just get missed in the new fiscal. So
Prior year, Peter.
prior year, yeah. So it's not a big deal.
All right.
But we want to get this clean and get it paid.
Is there a motion to approve prior year payment for lockbox charges in the amount of $1,630.63 as city?
Sunderland, so moved.
Nosworthy, second.
Then motion properly seconded. Hearing no further questions, all in favor?
Sunderland, aye.
Nosworthy, aye.
Kelly, aye.
Unanimous. We'll now move into item 12A. Is that right?
I believe so. I believe there's two limited accounts at 12A and
So
12B.
we're gonna do 12A. We'll turn it over to you, David.
Yes, sir. Which one is 12?
12A is going to be specialty.
Specialty maintenance?
Yep.
And I believe there's an accompanying letter, yes.
Yes.
Currently, we're funded at 1.5 million for this account. Ultimately, we're asking for 200 more, which is going to take it to 1.7. Historically, you can see our spends in 13 and then 14. There is a list of 10 to 15 bullet items. Some of these have just come into play in the past few months, some additional work over on the service garage. But we feel this 200,000 extra will take us to the remainder and end of the contract here.
Okay, thank you. So is there a motion to approve an increase to our specialty preventive maintenance limit account in the amount of $200,000 for the various activities?
Sunderland, so moved.
Nosworthy, second.
The motion properly seconded. Hearing no further questions, all in favor?
Sunderland, aye.
Nosworthy, aye.
Kelly, aye.
Unanimous. We'll now move on to item 12B. David?
Yes, sir. On a different limit account, this is the spoils limit account. Currently funded at $50,000. We're going to ask for another $50,000 allocation, which would take us to $100,000 total, which we feel will get us to the end of the contract. Contract year 13, we were at 130, 14, 150. Put a pretty big dent in it last year, and
Good enough.
it spoils is down. We think it will be.
Okay.
It's down.
What are spoils?
That's, spoils is material that the distribution crews dig up when they're actually out there repairing those mains, and they can't put it back in. So they bring it to the yard here when they fix those water mains out here.
All right. So is there a motion to approve an increase to our spoil limits accounts and with our relationship with Veolia in the amount of $50,000?
Sunderland, so moved.
Nosworthy, second.
Motion properly seconded. Hearing no further questions, all in favor?
Sunderland, aye.
Nosworthy, aye.
Kelly, aye.
Unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, we'll now move on to monthly report from GHD.
I'm going to excuse myself.
Okay.
I've got something else.
All right, Ms.
Thank you, Jerry.
Walvogel.
Stephen Waldvogel, engineer with GHD. I want to use my report this time to just express my appreciation to OJ. Similar to Vice Chairman.
If I don't see you, it was great.
This is a bittersweet time.
Visit. Oh, that's it.
I think it's the other way, Jerry. We're going to go visit him. Yeah, so it's been a pleasure working with you, OJ. I've learned a lot. I've seen you navigate quite a number of difficult situations very well with grace and integrity. Buffalo has really benefited from your leadership. Like the Vice Chairman, I've seen you nationally be a tremendous advocate for the city all over the country. And so we wish you well. I'm sorry to see you go. I've enjoyed my time working with you very much. Thank you very much. That's what I'm going to say today. Dustin, do you have any comments for us?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Stephen. Dustin Steiner, GHD. I just wanted to thank the board for their investment in the berm project. And if Connor can just throw up a couple quick photos. We had a very heavy rain event and winds, a couple of weeks ago, and you could see with the addition of our curb and our berm, this is a photo looking north from south on AMVETS Drive. And just so you are all aware that would have ended up basically on top of our clear well if that berm had not been installed. So again, just a big thank you. I know I speak very lightly when I say this, but I know Veolia especially really respects. really respects your investment in this project, board. And OJ, I will continue on what Steven said. I've worked with you now for a couple decades, and I really appreciate your leadership, and great client to work for, and you will be truly missed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dustin.
And Christine, I think you have some comments as well?
Absolutely. Good morning, Chairman and Board. I would first of all like to say it was a pleasure working with, my name is Christine Wingo, GHD, and it was a pleasure working with Mr. McFoy as well for the short time I've been with GHD. I just want to highlight the Flow Up event that we had this past Monday and Sunday and Monday, where we had over 50 participants with representation from over 10 cities in the upstate New York area. And we just want to thank the board for their participation with that. In addition to the board being a sponsor, there were other sponsors from our area, 4 other sponsors, along with 15 panelists and presenters and moderators from around the city who expressed a lot of wealth and knowledge around the topics that we were presenting that day. We also send a special thanks to our volunteers from ERG, Nina, Connor, and Brittany, as well as our Portia Parson and April Baskin, who also assisted with us in these efforts. Special thanks to everyone else who had a participation in it. And we look forward to hearing greater things from what you'll do. We'll miss you in Buffalo, Mr. McFoy, but we know you're on to bigger and better, and have fun doing it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Listen, I couldn't, let you guys go without commenting on not only all the things that you've done, but that Flow Up Summit was wonderful. I mean, you guys were able to put that on within, 4 or 5 months, and it was just amazing to see the interest. You mentioned 9-10 cities from all the way, from here all the way to Albany. And it was just great to have everybody in the room, to have everybody really thinking on how we are going to get rid of these lead service lines in all of our various communities, many of them with huge areas of disadvantaged pockets. Some like Buffalo, 85% that fit into that category, but it is great. That just needs to be step one. We have to continue on with that work. I know we are planning for a February event, really planning to take this to the state budget. And I know we have a great champion in the freshman senator that will be coming in there, but it's imperative that communities like Buffalo, who are facing anywhere from $500 to $800 billion to replace lead service lines throughout their communities, we have to get funding. There has to be funding in place. We cannot carry that whole burden alone. And so collectively, we're focusing in on what we can do. It is really important. We have to continue doing that. So thank you and your team for getting that all set up. But I think this begins that hard work of ensuring that our state is committed and pushing forward with our federal government to get those dollars up. So anything else for GHD?
Not at this time.
Just one last thing. I'm sorry. One last thing, Mr. Chair. I did remiss to say that we had several MWBEs as well as Portia Parson, Ari Parson, participate in these efforts as well. I think I neglected to say that. So I just wanted to make sure that was on record.
Excellent. All right, we'll move on to monthly report from Veolia. Mr. Hill.
Thank you, Chairman David Hill, Veolia Water. Again, I want to take this minute to congratulate you on that career move, incredible move. We're going to miss you. It's been an honor to work under you and your leadership. Someone that truly cares about public health, about individual rights, about treating people with dignity and respect. All that means so much. And just want you to know, we're going to carry that forward.
All right.
So a couple other items that we'll be working on in the next few months. We'll be getting with 120 Water again. I believe our agreement is nearly up. We need to take a look at that again. So we'll be circling back on that. And I know we've got to do one more round, Peter, of risk and resiliency studies, and we got to basically recertify our pouring system with the federal government one last time before we
So
go.
the gas system.
The gas.
Wow.
Yes,
I didn't know that.
We're not ready yet.
I know, we got to go ahead.
we got one more round
All
of
right.
that, so we'll be working on that in the next few months. That's really all I have. Mr. Fultz, you got anything?
Yeah, thank you, Dave. Good morning again, Board. Doug Fultz, Veolia Operations. The only other one to add to that list is we also are going to be working with Arcadis, which is the board's security consultant. We do have a 5-year renewal and recertification of the risk and resiliency, as well as the emergency response plan that was developed in early 2020. If you can believe it's been 5 years, or will be 5 years. So that will be happening. So we're working with Arcadis right now to develop the overall scope of work for that effort.
All right. Thank you, guys. Okay, is there anything else? All right, if not, it is 10 o'clock. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Sunderland, so moved.
Nosworthy second.
It's been motion properly seconded, hearing no further questions. All in favor?
Sunderland, aye.
Nosworthy, aye.
Foy, aye. Take aye. All right. Congratulations. Thank you guys very much. We do appreciate everyone for being with us this morning. We do apologize for the late start. Want to thank everyone for your participation. Looking forward to our weather getting a little nicer in our south towns and continuing to do the hard work.
Well, it's gonna get nicer for you.
Have a good one, guys.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
10 o'clock.
I had to give it one shot.